AIT for telling my dad's new wife. She's not invited to my wedding? Hi Reddit, I, Ink27F. Need some advice. I'm getting married in a few months to my fiancée, 28M. And what should be one of the happiest times of my life has turned into a stress-filled mess thanks to my dad, 55M, and his new wife, Sandra, 40F. For context, my mum passed away when I was 15. It was devastating, and my dad and I were really close for a while afterward. He was my rock when I needed him most. But over time, things changed. He started dating again a few years later, and while I was happy for him at first, I always felt like something shifted in our relationship. He stopped being as present, and I felt like I became less of a priority. Then came Sandra. They met about 2 years ago, and within 6 months, they were engaged. I was shocked by how fast it all happened, and honestly, I didn't know her well enough to feel comfortable with her stepping into such an important role in my dad's life. Despite my reservations, I tried to be supportive because at the end of the day, I just wanted my dad to be happy. But Sandra has always rubbed me the wrong way. From the beginning, she's been overly pushy and has tried to insert herself into every aspect of my life. She constantly refers to herself as my bonus mom, which makes me cringe because I don't see her that way at all. I have a mom. She may not be here anymore, but she's irreplaceable. Sandra doesn't seem to understand that, and she keeps trying to act like she's filling that void, which honestly just makes me resent her more. Fast forward to my wedding planning. I'm having a small and intimate ceremony with about 50 guests. I want it to feel personal and meaningful, and my fiancé and I have spent months carefully curating the guest list. When my dad assumed Sandra would be invited, I hesitated. I've never felt close to her, and honestly, the idea of her being there on such an important day makes me uncomfortable. When I told my dad that I wasn't sure if I wanted Sandra there, he was shocked. He immediately got defensive and accused me of being rude and disrespectful. He said that Sandra is family now and that it would be a slap in the face to exclude her. I tried to explain my perspective, that this isn't about being mean or petty, but about wanting to feel comfortable and at ease on my wedding day. I reminded him that I've never been close to Sandra, and having her there would feel forced. That's when things got heated. My dad told me that if Sandra wasn't invited, he wouldn't come to the wedding either. I was stunned. He actually said, "If you don't want to include my wife, then I can't support this wedding." Hearing that broke my heart. I thought, my dad would understand how important this day is to me, but instead, he's making it all about Sandra. To make matters worse, Sandra found out about our conversation and sent me a long text saying how hurt she was by my decision. She said she's been trying to build a relationship with me and doesn't understand why I'm shutting her out. She also made a comment about how she deserves to be there as my dad's wife, which honestly just made me angrier. I'm starting to feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I don't want to hurt my dad, but on the other hand, I feel like I have every right to decide who gets to be at my wedding. This day is about me and my fiancé, not about appeasing Sandra or anyone else. The worst part is that I can already feel the guilt creeping in. My dad has always been such an important part of my life, and the thought of him not being at my wedding is devastating. But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that he's prioritizing Sandra's feelings over mine. I've talked to a few friends about this, and opinions are split. Some people think I'm totally justified in not inviting Sandra since it's my wedding and my choice. Others think I'm being petty and that I should just suck it up for the sake of family harmony. I'm torn. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my dad, but I also don't want to compromise on something so important to me. So, Reddit, AIT for telling my dad's new wife she's not invited to my wedding. Am I being selfish, or am I right to set boundaries for my special day? Update. 2 weeks later. Hey Reddit, I'm back with an update. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I read every single response, and it really helped me process my feelings. It's been a whirlwind couple of weeks, and things have taken some unexpected turns, so buckle up. After reading your comments, I decided to have another conversation with my dad. I didn't want to make any rash decisions without giving him a chance to truly understand where I was coming from. I invited him over for coffee and we sat down for what I hoped would be a calm and productive discussion. I started by explaining how much I loved and appreciated him and how grateful I was for everything he's done for me, especially after Mom passed. I told him that the last thing I wanted was to hurt him or create drama, but I needed him to hear me out. I explained that my wedding day is deeply personal, and I want it to feel authentic to me and my fiancée. I also shared how I felt about Sandra. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him that while I respect his choice to marry her, I've never felt a genuine connection with her. I admitted that her constant attempts to step in as a mother figure felt intrusive and made me uncomfortable. I emphasized that this wasn't about being cruel or vindictive, but about setting boundaries that I needed for my own peace of mind. To his credit, my dad listened without interrupting, which was a huge step forward. When I finished, he sighed and said, "I just don't understand why you can't give Sandra a chance." He told me that Sandra has been trying her best to bond with me, and that excluding her from the wedding would send a message that she isn't truly part of the family. That's when I had to hit him with some hard truths. I told him that while Sandra may be his family, she's not mine. Not in the way he wants her to be. I said that relationships can't be forced, and her constant overstepping has only pushed me further away. I reminded him that this day is about me and my fiancée, not about Sandra or her feelings. Then I asked him a question that I think caught him off guard. "Why are you so willing to put Sandra's feelings above mine?" I could see the gears turning in his head, but he didn't have an answer. Things got emotional at that point. My dad admitted that he felt torn between me and Sandra, and that he didn't want to choose sides. He said he just wanted everyone to get along and be a happy family. I told him I understood where he was coming from, but that I wasn't asking him to choose. I was asking him to respect my boundaries. The conversation ended on a tense but somewhat hopeful note. He said he needed time to think about everything and that he'd get back to me. Fast forward a few days later, and I get a text from Sandra. I was hesitant to even open it, but curiosity got the better of me. In the message, she said she'd heard about my conversation with my dad and that she wanted to clear the air. She claimed she wasn't trying to replace my mom, and that all she's ever wanted was for us to have a good relationship. She also said something that really rubbed me the wrong way. "I know your mom isn't here to see you get married, but I thought I could help fill that role on your big day." That line sent me over the edge. I told her, as politely as I could, that no one could ever fill my mum's role, and that her constant attempts to do so were part of the problem. I reiterated that this wasn't personal, but that I needed her to respect my boundaries. Sandra didn't take it well. She sent back a long, emotional response about how she's tried so hard and how hurtful it is to be excluded. She even accused me of being jealous of her relationship with my dad, which felt like a low blow. Then, things escalated. My dad called me the next day, clearly upset. He said Sandra was devastated by my text and that I was being unnecessarily cruel. He told me that if I couldn't find it in my heart to invite her, then he couldn't support my wedding. At that moment, something clicked for me. I realized that my dad was putting Sandra's feelings above mine yet again, and that this dynamic wasn't going to change. I told him that while I loved him, I wasn't willing to compromise my happiness to appease Sandra. I said, "If you choose not to come to my wedding, that's your decision, but I won't let you guilt me into changing my mind." That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to say to him. There was a long pause on the phone before he said, "I hope you know what you're doing," and hung up. Now I'm left feeling a mix of emotions: hurt, anger, sadness, and even relief. It's heartbreaking to think my dad might not be there on one of the most important days of my life, but I also feel like I've finally stood up for myself. I've talked to my fiancé about everything, and he's been incredibly supportive. He reminded me that this is our day, and we shouldn't let anyone else dictate how it should go. My friends have also rallied around me, and I'm leaning on them for support as I navigate this mess. I don't know what's going to happen next. Part of me hopes my dad will come around, but I'm also preparing myself for the possibility that he won't. At the end of the day, I know I made the right choice for me, even if it's a painful one. What do you think, Reddit? Did I handle this the right way, or am I being too stubborn? I'll keep you updated if anything changes.